Tonight on PM Express, a conversation about the tough measures taken by government to rake in revenue for government business. Last Friday, if you monitored events in Parliament, you realized that 3 critical bills were passed into law amidst the controversy. But government says it will rake in some 4 billion cedis to help reduce our deficit. Now, this comes at a time when businesses are complaining, employers are complaining, manufacturers are complaining, industries are complaining, and even individuals, you and I, are complaining about the hardship that we face with this economy. And government explains that this will help us achieve the conditionalities that we need for the IMF. Already we've missed 3 deadlines. In December, in February, and in March, we've missed all those deadlines. So these 3 measures, will it actually bridge the gap? I'm talking about our deficit. Will it deal with the deficit? What impact does it have on businesses? They say it will further cripple their businesses. And for the employee, the obvious is that when the seat gets hotter, the employers will lay off workers and it becomes a cycle. And so this is the focus of our conversation tonight. But I first want to take you through where we've come from, where we are right now, and then you will understand what we're talking about. So if you followed our conversations in Parliament on Friday, you realize that they approved those 3 bills, and government says it's part of measures to revamp revenue mobilization, and it's critical toward an IMF board approval. Now, this is the breakdown. The income tax amendment bill, government says, is expected to rake in 1.2 billion. And let's see how it went on in Parliament. It was through a head count, 137 against 136. And so the majority had their way. Excise duty amendment bill, government says it's expected to bring in some 400 million Ghana cedis. And that was achieved through a vote count or a voice vote. Now, growth and sustainability amendment bill, which government says is expected to rake in 2.2 billion, was also achieved through a voice vote. Now, this is where we find ourselves. The requirement for the 3 billion IMF package, the requirements are that we need to restructure our debt. Now, that has been done. We're done with the domestic debt. We are now talking to our foreign partners who we are looking forward to. They're scrapping our debt for us. Now, we're supposed to increase our revenue mobilization and also ensure fiscal discipline. Have you achieved that? Well, your guess is as good as mine. Now, let's look at the total revenue. I mean, our target from the beginning of the year. For this year, our target is 147.9 billion cedis. That's our total revenue target. But look at expenditure. It far outweighs the revenue we are targeting. It's 205.5 billion. And so we still have a deficit of 61.5. And this is how it's going to look with the new bills that have been passed into law. So total revenue with the new bills now stands at 112.4 billion. Now, without the bill, this is where we were, 108.4. Let's look at the approval of the taxes and the minority's position. The minority says no government can tax its way out of the economic crisis. It says government must cut down its size and not burden taxpayers. Then it says taxes will compound hardship of Ghanaians. The IMF program is not about tax introduction. And of course, this is what the AGI has released this evening with regards to these tax measures. Because tonight we're looking at how businesses can survive Ghana's tax climate. So just some few minutes ago, AGI released this, and it expresses its disappointment over the passage of the new revenue bills. The association wishes to register its disappointment, and it says, we denounce the lack of stakeholder consultation on such fiscal policies which have negative impact on businesses. AGI took steps to make input to the bills, and it's obvious that our submissions did not receive the consideration we expected. And then it says industries are already under severe pressure from several headwinds, including inflation currently at 52%, VAT shot up 15%, resultant effect of 21.9%, water tariff increments 172%, electricity 29.9%, policy rate 29.5%, increase in residual fuel prices due to government subsidy withdrawal, an unstable foreign exchange regime, and levies and taxes on imported raw materials totaling about 50%. So AGI is actually unhappy about this, and it's registering its strong reservation about these bills that were passed. Now, it says it is in the mutual interest of industry and government to sustain agriculture and industrial sectors, which hold the key to job creation. We call on government to engage AGI on measures to incentivize our local industries to forestall the negative consequences of these policies. And it's signed by the Chief Executive Officer, Sechuma Kwabwa. This is the conversation we're going to be having. We're going to be talking to Guta Beverages Association. We're going to talk to a host of the industries and manufacturers who will feel the pinch of these taxes that have been introduced. But again, is government genuine in telling us exactly what's this? And the interesting thing about it is the fruit juices, the cooking oils that they have increased, which they say is for our own health benefit. We'll be looking into all of that. I'll introduce my guest to you after this break. Welcome back to PM Express. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. My guests are seated in the studio. Some will join on Zoom. Dr. Joseph Obing, he's president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association. Mark Edouard Boaje is chief executive officer, Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Gentlemen, you're welcome to PM Express. And then Sam Agri, who's executive secretary of Food and Beverages Association, has also joined us via Zoom. I'm grateful for your time, Mr. Agri. Right. Let me begin with you in the studio. What was, because we've just heard from AGI expressing frustration over these three bills that have been passed into law. They said they took steps to help put in their input in this, but it looks like government didn't take their input. Government went ahead to do what they wanted to do. What was the level of consultation? Let me start with you, Dr. Obing.
We were never engaged.
Wow.
Yeah. So maybe AGI would have been privileged, but we were never engaged.
Okay.
And so I cannot say the same thing that they are saying, but it's very unfortunate because it has always been the norm that whenever there's a new tax, they consult us and then we build consensus.
Yeah.
That's how labor and businesses and government have been doing. Even when it bypasses us and go to parliament and we raise concerns, they hold on it and then come and engage us again.
So what happened this time around?
And so they were determined to bring it, regardless of the pleas from the business community.
Did you raise some objections from the right from the onset?
So many petitions have been sent to parliament itself, to the speaker, and then press releases have been issued. I hope you read my a couple of days ago.
Right.
And so there is almost all the business unions and organizations have protested to this very bill because we are overburdened with tax payment. Seriously, and it is true.
Yeah.
To the extent that any layer of cost of doing business would have succeeded in breaking the backs of businesses, and that's our fears. And that's why we do not. We disapprove this bill, and that we are not particularly happy with Parliament. Because Parliament does not serve its interest. It serves the interest of the generality of Ghanaians. In this particular case, the business community. And so they do not represent their own interests or even the interests of their political parties. we are their constituents, and they have to listen to us. And it is very unfortunate that they are imposing. I don't think the democracy that we are practicing now is democracy of imposition, and that we do not build consensus. We do not do stakeholder engagement before imposing a bill on us. It's very unfortunate. The bills that have been presented is going to have a serious effects on businesses, especially the growth and sustainability bill. Okay. What is going to happen is that we are going to pay multiplicity of taxes. Just imagine the insurance industry, the communication industry, the banking industry, and the others being made to pay 5% on their gross. They are going to treat it as an expense and offload it on us. They will never absorb it. It means that all these institutions that you work with are going to pass this cost onto you, and then you are also to contend with your own of 2.5% on your gross. People think that we are not also part of this. Okay. Our share is 2.5% on our gross, plus this number of institutions, all of them paying. So that's why we call it obnoxious tax.
Mr. Bedoabuaji, were you consulted, with these three bills?
Not at all. Not at all. We were not consulted. In fact, in better tax management, the best way is to consult those that the incidence of taxation will be on. This time around, the businesses and consumers. We were expecting that at least they will consult us. They didn't consult. I remember during the preparation of the 2023 budget, we were asked to submit our input into the budget. And we made it clear that looking at the number of taxes that we have now, it will be out of place to either introduce a new tax or increase existing taxes, which we submitted. I went to do the presentation on behalf of the chamber. So we were not expecting any tax. Then we saw this tax in the 2023 budget. It was just a line item, just a big statement of growth and sustainability levy, and then excise duty and other things. Details were not on that. So even though we have seen it in the budget, we were expecting that when they were sending it to Parliament, the details will be made available to us, or they will consult us for us also to make an input into the taxes. Nothing of that sort was done. All that we saw was that it's been submitted to Parliament. Even that we had to work on our own to get copies of it. But that is not the best way out when you want to engage businesses, when you want to develop your economy. And then the private sector, which is the engine of those who are going to pay the taxes, they are not aware of it. That's why most of our policies that we bring about, they don't succeed because we don't consult very well. And there are instances that we have seen that because they impose some of these things, people always also find a way around it. For me, it's not the best way.
Yeah, finding a way around it, I'll be talking about that because we've accused the Indians, Chinese, Lebanese of evading taxes. I want to find out if this would actually, encourage some other businesses to follow that suit. But why are you opposing to this when government has actually explained to you that this is part of, requirements to actually get the country to get an IMF deal?
I think the explanation is not sufficient. For me, how did we get to where we are now? I think we have talked about government expenditure and the extent of borrowing. And we've made it clear to government that this is how it's going to end us. It will get to a point where we cannot sustain our borrowing and our ability to pay these loans will not be there. So put a halt to it. Also check your expenditure also. It's two ways, either your revenue or expenditure. If you don't have enough revenue to support your expenditure, you cut down your expenditure. They were spending thinking that they will get the money. Where are you going to get the money?
But government said that it had put hold on essential travels. It has reduced fuel. V8 were not going to be used by appointees. All these are also measures to cut down expenditure.
It's not significant enough. If you look at the expenditure, it's not significant enough to make the economy sustainable when it comes to payment of loans. Secondly, in trying to resolve an issue or a problem, don't create another one that will be even more difficult for you to solve. It's as if everything is about the IMF loan. So they are not being sensitive to the plight of the businesses. If you want to tax me, find out whether I'm able to make the profit for you to tax. Find out the current environment. Are they supporting businesses? If I'm making profit, I will not have that issue if I have to give part to government, because I know government will have to develop, the roads, the schools, and other things. But we are in an environment where the policy rate, which is also the monetary policy supposed to support businesses, is also being inimical to the development of businesses. Policy rate is now 29.5. So if you want to borrow as business, you'll be paying around 40 to 45%. Just at the beginning of the year, we've seen utility prices going up. Water went up that high, electricity also went up, and then inflation is also going up. All these things, they are not in isolation. They work to increase the cost of doing business. So already businesses are suffering. If you have your revenue and you take out the cost, you realize that you have nothing. And the little that you have, they are saying that I'm going to tax you growth and sustainability levy. Where are you getting the growth from? Who is giving you the growth? It's the private sector. So if I'm not doing well, how are you going to get that money from? Then after that, you go and pay your corporate tax. Why? Multiplicity of taxes. If you're an economy and you want to develop, you don't develop by imposing taxes on businesses. You develop by making them productive, empowering them, using tax as an incentive to develop the private sector. In other countries, taxes are being given as an incentive, to businesses to develop. So we give you a tax exemption looking at your contribution to GDP. Here, everything is just tax. And for me, it's an easy way of generating revenue. Let's look at how we can increase tax revenue without increasing the tax rate or introducing new taxes. And evidence is there. If you increase your compliance level, if you make tax so simple and so easy, and the rate is low, people will even walk to the Ghana Revenue Authority and say that I'm paying my tax.
Has that ever happened in Ghana?
No. It hasn't also happened to us.
Yes, because you have not given us opportunity to do that. Because the rate is very high, already high. And when you come to my office as a GRA person, when you walk out, at the end, you are taking all my money away. People have invested hugely in their businesses, and they are not for the Christmas. They are there to make profit. So anything that will affect their profit, they will fight it. These taxes, for me, the tax is counterproductive. It's inimical to business. It's anti-businesses. And I don't think that we should even be here discussing this tax, because in the end, it's going to kill businesses, and businesses will have no option than to lay off people.
Specifically, let's look at how this affects, businesses in terms of profitability and how to sustain your business.
Okay, let me first and foremost help Mark. You asked him, it is a conditionality. That's why the government is bringing it.
Definitely.
But IMF did not tell you that go and bring these taxes. They said that how are you going to enhance on your
revenue mobilization? And government thought it wise that
exactly
this is where to get
do this.
it. Yes.
This is destroying the businesses.
What would you have had government done?
Government could have done a thing out of the box. Bring innovative solutions to this, where it will not hurt the growth of businesses, where it will not destroy businesses. These taxes are, as I've called it, obnoxious. It is not going to help, and it's going to break the backs of businesses, as I've already said. So government could have used other forms. Let me tell you, GRA research says that people who are capable of paying taxes in this country is over 13 million.
Okay.
And just about 6 million of us, less than 6 million, who are captured into the tax net, who are paying. How do we bring this? We have to bring innovative ways. And then we also have the taxes that we are paying is very big.
Yep.
Let me tell you, apart from the mainstream taxes and all that, the new taxes that came, the Bola tax, the COVID levy. COVID, when it came to destroy businesses. The business are the worst affected of this COVID pandemic, including the Russia-Ukraine war.
Yeah.
Government is complaining that it's affecting him because it's first and foremost affecting the businesses that it's going to tax. And so we need their sympathy. Then we increased the COVID levy. We added it. There's no precedent in the world where any country charged a tax on COVID pandemic when it was destroying businesses. It doesn't happen anywhere. There's no precedent. Okay. But we are paying. Plus, we have this special import levy that we pay. During the previous government, it was said that after the sun set, the sun has never set, and that tax have never been taken out of the table. The petroleum taxes and all that. VAT have moved from 3% to over 20%, about 22%. Benchmark that gave us the respite have also been taken away from the table, and that now we pay very high duties. Duties have increased about 30%, and all this we are paying. So it's not that we are not paying. So all that government have to do is to make sure that the taxes that we are paying is already enough. And so we apply a very effective, efficient tax system for collection of these taxes to ensure compliance and also to rope in those who are outside the tax net, and government will get more than enough to develop the country. So it's about applying efficient tax systems, methods that will ensure that compliance, because compliance is the key of all that we are doing. That's why he said that people will even find corners and all that. Now, Tema Port is half empty.
Why?
Why? Because people who think that doing business is extorsively high at Tema have other alternatives in the port at our right, Cote d'Ivoire, the port at our left, Togo. So, because it's not working in isolation, it's working in competition with other ports. And that's what we are saying. So, if you do efficient tax system, that will ensure compliance, that is affordable, that everybody would do. And then also, the leakages in the system. There are so many. Let's cancel the tax exemption policy. It's not helping anybody. You heard that somebody have applied tax exemption on rice. Yeah, you read it in the news and all that.
Yes.
How do you get tax exemption on rice importation? Because people are taking advantage and abusing the system. Let's cancel it. Unless it is very necessary that we have to give exemption maybe for some health reason and all that. But then we can even save about 2 billion.
But the argument has been that businesses generally...
If I have to finish, then the leakages at the free zones and then the leakages at the warehousing system and all that should be effectively monitored and evaluated.
Over the period, businesses generally were told do not pay enough taxes, and therefore government says that these measures would help bring in the shortfall.
The people who pay tax are just not even many. But then, whatever targets that the government have set, even for this small group of people, we have exceeded our revenue targets. Even last year, that business was very difficult because of the effect of the depreciation or the exchange rate. We were able to cross past the target that was set for a GRE. They exceeded their revenue target. Who is saying that? The preceding years also saw that we exceeded our revenue target. So you needed the revenue for us. You set a very huge and outrageous target, and you are able to get those targets, and you still come that it's not sufficient for me. Then you have to take your expenditure.
Let me bring in Mr. Sam Agri. Mr. Sam Agri, one of the reasons why the beverages industry is affected by these taxes is because they say there are a lot of unhealthy beverages on the market, and it's not good for our health. And so this would actually help check Ghanaians so that they can live healthy or they can stay healthy. Is that why you are kicking against these tax measures? Hello, Mr. Agri.
must say that, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
That is why you're not hearing me.
Go ahead, Mr. Agri.
Now,
There seem to be...
Now, with the excuses, production is causing some health problems in our country. And not be the truth. If there are problems, what we need to do is to all these industries and regulate. So we pass policies, and the regulator will ensure that whatever that you are producing is producing within certain limits. Or you don't impose taxes, thinking that people will stop consumption of those products. What I must say is that the taxes that have been passed, the effect of it is that everything that government is asking for will be passed on to the consumer. And government wants to raise taxes and will complain. They say, pass it on to the consumer. So in effect, what will happen is that when the consumer is not able to buy, what will happen finally is that you will then have to build up your business in the country. And we are saying, no, we have so many taxes that all these businesses are going through, and they are overburdened. So therefore, we need to do something, find a very enticing way in collecting these taxes from other avenues. But we don't go to this 20% of the taxpayers. Anytime that we want to raise taxes, we come to the manufacturer, we go to the business people, and we need to increase taxes so that we can go pay more real. The government expenditure, the level of ministers that we have in this country, political appointees that don't hold any portfolio at all. These are the people that we are talking about. If you are able to cut down the number of people that you have in your country and reduce your expenditures, I'm telling you, in the next 5 years,
okay. Let's try and fix Dr. Agri's connection. We'll try and fix his connection because he's making a very valid point. But yes, so when we get him back, he would wrap up on that point for me. But he's making a very valid point, which is not different from what you have said. But let me find out from you, is there the likelihood, I mean, the real likelihood that businesses may fold up because of this and, number one, lay off workers and probably set up in other countries?
It's real. It's happening. Even before these taxes kickstart, as I said earlier, the environment is harsh. So those who are not able to even survive at this time are folding up and laying off people. And those who think that there's a better business environment somewhere, like any other country, are moving up to those countries. The other issue had to do with passing on this cost to consumers. There are some products, an industry that is so much easy for you to pass on the cost to consumers because the competition are not at the level where people will not buy your product. Some of the products have gotten to a level where just a 1% increase in prices means that you are not competitive. For instance, if you take the beverage industry, for instance, a lot of these goods are being imported. They are coming from countries where cost of production is very low. So their prices already are low. So if you put just one cedi on it, people are not going to buy. Businesses are now adopting a survival strategy. People have invested millions of cedis and dollars in their businesses, and they won't sit down for you to use your taxes to kill their businesses. They will find a way to survive. And one of the ways is for them just to cut down production so they'll be able to contain the cost. And that will require that people will be laid off. This will definitely happen. And it's going to increase. Those who are already looking for a job, I pity all of us, those who are completing schools, where government has said that for the year 2023, it's not going to employ anybody. The hope for them is for the private sector to expand. to engage these people. Now you are using taxes just to collapse these businesses. You are killing the businesses. How would they expand to absorb this individual? So we are in a very difficult situation. And I think that when we speak, they should listen to us. We want this economy to move forward. Okay. And the only way out, the strength of our GDP is not on government policy. The strength of our GDP is on how the private sector is doing. If they are doing well, the GDP will go up, and we have an inclusive GDP growth where people will be absorbed. If they are not doing well, they will lay off people.
I think Mr. Agri is back on the line. Mr. Agri, let's hear if your line is clearer. You were making some very good points there before the line failed us. Hello, Mr. Agri.
So what I was saying was that if government say, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
If government is saying that
your line is very bad. Let's try and get him on the phone if that will work out. Dr. Obing, so you're opposing government and you say that government created its own problems. It should find a way of fixing it and not overtax you or overburden you. But generally, if the economy gets better at the end of the day, wouldn't you be the end beneficiary?
Yeah, it is true, but we have to diagnose our problem well. We have to prefer better solutions for our problems. If we are adopting bad solutions, then it's going to even affect us the more. Then we'll go to IMF and the effect will be negative. That's what we are talking about. And that we do not go, because we have to inspire hope into the system. And that's exactly what government is trying to do, so that with the program, the injection of some funds and all that will bring. Yeah. But then after you have gotten the funds, and then you've succeeded in killing the giants, the businesses that is feeding you, what would you have achieved? What are you using the money for? And so that's exactly what we are saying, that we could have used an alternative means of enhancing on this revenue. Okay. And we should have think outside the box.
But government says you need to take the hard pill so that we can get better.
Are destroying businesses. So by the time we get better, we would have been killed. I mean, it's not that easy. The taxes that we are paying, we are not competitive in the sub-region. We are not competitive at all. That we are losing our attractiveness to the neighboring country. The business that we do not do it in isolation. Okay. We do it with the neighboring countries before we can boom as a nation. And now the distributive arm, the manufacturing sector, and the agriculture sector. Because when you go right, you are being overburdened with interest rate. Now we have to contend with about 40%. Who can invest or can enhance our productivity with 40% as a starting point, as a cost? You are already lost. And then all these taxes are piled up on you. Just think about it. How are you going to make it? It's very difficult where your other counterparts globally, they are sourcing their capitals 2%, 3%, and all that. And I've told you, we do not trade in isolation. That's why we become very irrelevant in the scheme of affairs of the continental free trade, where we have the edifice seated here. Okay. And ask 3 years of implementation. Let's ask, what have we been able to supply to the rest of Africa, where people are going to Kenya and the rest to even buy goods and all that? Okay. Because the cost of doing business here is extremely and extorsively high. Now we are losing our ports to other ports. Doesn't it tell us something? That you cannot overtax it out of our effectiveness. And this is exactly what is happening.
Already there are warnings that this could lead to a high incidence of tax avoidance. Is this a reality?
Yeah, because tax, when it is affordable, the compliance level is high. When taxes are extorsively high, then you are not even helping people on their integrity. Those people who even go to church, will then be dodging, and you are not helping people to even worship their God. And this is exactly what happens, because then it becomes survival of the fittest, and they cut edges. And these things have happened in the past, and it never succeeded.
So will the customer be the final person to bear the brunt?
No.
Would you always shift costs to the consumer?
That is oversimplification. It's not easy. When there's inflation, the inflation that we are suffering now is not as a result of excessive liquidity in the system, and that by the method of Bank of Ghana, we have to mop up the excess liquidity by every day increasing the monetary policy rate. We've done it since 2021, mopping up this excess liquidity, and always the inflation is going up. You know why?
No.
Because the inflation that we are having is as a result of accumulation of cost.
Okay.
A cost resulting from this line of taxes. Even at the port, Tema Port, the line of taxes there is about 20. In the sub-region, you can't count over 10.
Okay.
And that these taxes are piled on Ghanaian. And then the lending rate is also compounding the problem.
Okay.
Because if you have to borrow at the rate of 40%, it obviously increases your costing.
Okay. Let me bring in Mr. Agri. I'm hoping that this time your line is better. Do we have? Okay, so we have him on phone. Dr. Agri, so the issue has been that most of the beverages, for instance, and that's one example Parliament gave in passing one of the bills, that increasing the prices of those beverages, tobacco and all of that, those ones are unhealthy. And so by doing so, they are helping us to stay healthy. Is that the reason you're opposing to these bills?
Thank you very much. The excuses that have been given is not valid. Now, if you are beverage producer, you have a regulator that sees to it that the product that you are putting on the market is valid health. If you want people to cut down consumption, then only the needed thing that you need to do is to ask the regulator to regulate the content of the food, but you don't impose taxes on them, thinking that people stop consuming. What the government is doing is looking at the numbers that is produced and imposing the taxes on them, because they can whip in more taxes by counting the bottles and they pass the better pass in the market. So that is exactly what they are doing. It has nothing to do with the healthy issue. If it's healthy issue, I will debate them on this, because we have other lines that are hereditary. Whatever that you do, you go through that process. So what is government doing is to help these people at the background. Now, if they are saying that because you are consuming beverage, we need to increase. If you need to increase, is the money going to the NHIS, the health insurance policy? No. It's just the same procedure that they use in increasing the benchmark, saying that we want to help industry to survive in this country. Have you asked the question where the money collected on the benchmark has gone to pushing the industry? No. That money goes to government consumption. And that is what they use anyhow on the market and other places to do their campaign on and all that. But what we need to do is to cut down the government side, reduce expenditure, and I'm telling you, in the next 1 year, government will be able to raise another 5 billion. That will be more than enough of what they are asking for. If you look at the presentation that we did, Ghana is far behind its expenditure. We are collecting 1.8 million, and Ghana is spending 204 billion Ghana. Where are they getting that money? They borrow that money and spend. DRA is telling us every day that we are exceeding our target and we are making excessive tax collection. So we think that they are very effective on the floor. What they need to do is to expand the business so that the 20% businesses and taxpayers will not suffer the consequences of increasing the tax bill. And what they need to do is to use a very effective way for other people to come into the tax net so that we can make the necessary revenue that we want. If you look at what is happening now, the borrowing is what has affected that. So the question that you ask yourself is, now who caused that and why are we where we are? You remember I discussed this thing with you some time back when I was on the studio with Mr. Daki, that the way government is going, if we are not careful, we will come to where we are. And this is exactly what has happened.
Are you particularly disappointed that, the parliamentarians, the majority, for instance, did not join their colleagues in the minority side to kick against
those
this?
who pass this law must bow down their heads and say, they are a disgrace to this country. Because your constituent is telling you that we cannot consume or pay more taxes after what is being practiced now. Because we have myriad of taxes that we need even at this time that we are all suffering from almost a collapse of the economy. We need to revive. And therefore, suffering this way, the businesses that we have in the system, the businessmen that we have, the manufacturers, if they die today or to go down the drain, there will be no government to survive. And therefore, we must be very serious in what we do as a country. If the taxes are too much, this is the time that we bring certain aspects of the taxes down so that business can survive to make money, to employ more when government is saying that we cannot employ this year. So why are the hundreds, thousands of students passing out of the university going to get employment? So we are in a very dire state that we need to take a very holistic action to make sure that everybody survives and government also survives. It's only when government is showing good faith by cutting down its own expenditure and downsizing the government that they have that we can also come along with the government. Because if you reduce taxes, there will be more spending and you make the money that you want. It's not always when you raise taxes that you make the money to run the economy. Sometimes when you do that, what will happen is that you will be suffering loss. You think you are raised and you are making the money. But as you check yourself, for instance, what is happening at the port? When duty is gone up almost 100%, that we cannot pay. Therefore, imports have also gone down. So you can go to the port today and count the containers that we have. It's as a result of the bad policy that has been taken. And then, forcefully, they are implementing it without shame. All the things that we are saying is that go back to the table, bring the stakeholders, and let us engage and see what we can. I remember warning the finance minister that the action that he's taking today will have the repercussions going forward. So therefore, he needs to be very careful. Okay. This man told me at the face, and in front of everyone, nobody can dictate to me.
Now the bill has already been passed into law. Is there any specific thing you intend to do to protest against this?
For us, we will only wish that government will come back and engage. Because as you are talking to Dr. Obin and the president of the chamber, they are telling you nobody has been engaged. ADI was engaged. The proposals given to them has been thrown away into the trash. How can we move forward? Bring all these people back on table and let us start. Because every tax, especially the income tax bill, the excise tax bill, and this growth and sustainability bill that has been passed, every sector of the economy is going to suffer, especially those who are employed. Because what will happen is that the income tax that they have to pay on the salaries of these people, their employees, what will happen is that when they take your money, they have to pay the income tax, the percentage that will be taken from you, the employer will then have to find more to put on top before they can be able to pay the government. Where are they going to get that money from? As you have also raised the excise duty, consumers are going to suffer in that area. That is why I've been calling everyone in this country, once you are a consumer and an employee, we must stand up against this kind of authoritarian imposition of taxes anytime, because anytime they bring the taxes, we keep quiet and then we move on. This time we are not going to let it go.
Okay.
We are telling government to come to the table hold on and let us discuss. If you are not going to do it, anything that we will do necessary, we will do for us to get what we want.
Right. Mr. Bedu Abuaje, what specifically do you intend to do to get government to listen to your demands?
Well, tomorrow we are issuing a statement. We are sending a petition to the president himself that we've gotten to a level where he has to come in and save businesses. Otherwise, the end will not be good for all of us. Back to the consultation. Now, we have several business associations, and they know our offices, they know us. Why do you just consult just one association and say that you have consulted all of us?
Even that they didn't work
yeah,
with their
exactly. That selective consultation will not help. Call all of us to the table. If one section is on industry, Guta is there for traders. The chamber is both for commerce and for traders and for industries as well and for the manufacturers as well. So it's broad-based. The chamber actually was set up by an airline. So it's the most recognized business association that if you want to consult, you can't bypass and consult somebody and say that you have consulted the private sector. Now, as he said, we have to survive. We have invested. We won't sit down for our investment to go down the drain. Our survival strategy will require that people will be laid off. Survival strategy will require that if our business are not making profit and they can make profit in other countries, we will move there and create value for them. Our survival strategy will require that we have to push this increment into consumers, and inflation that we are seeking to bring down will rather go up and worsen the situation. They should listen to us, come to the table, let all of us discuss and look at the way forward.
But Dr. Obeng, so from your side, how do you intend to stay in business? You also have a specific demand for government?
Yeah, we are also being consumed with these taxes, and we are the worst affected. Probably that's why some group may think that they are a bit okay. Normally, when it comes to tax payment and all that, because they want to bring down the so-called excessive importation and all that, we are the people that they look at to punish, give us punitive tax systems and all that. And but you see, sometimes you say you can stay afloat. You do your best, but then also you cannot even break even. That of inflation have curtailed the purchasing power of the consuming public, and then you become frustrated because you cannot add it on to the consumer, because the consumer's ability to buy more goods for you has been curtailed. And then you are unable, businesses thrives on turnover. And so when your turnover is curtailed, it means that you are unable to service your debt, your bankers and all that.
Yeah.
So before you realize, your business has collapsed as a result of all this. So it's not easy and it's quite challenging.
So if government doesn't rescind its decision, or if there's no amendment, what do you do?
I believe government will listen to prudence in what we are talking about. And we know that when they take their time to dissect what we are talking, they know that they might have rushed into passing this bill. And I believe they will have to sit down with this. We are the people of Ghana. The authority resides in us. It doesn't reside in them. They should understand that. The authority that Parliament had resides in the people of Ghana. And that it's very unfortunate that they bypassed the request of the generality of Ghanaians and then listen to their own self and pass this bill. It's very unfortunate. And if care is not taken, we are gradually observing the kind of democracy we are having here, and it may not augur well for the democracy itself that we are practicing. So that's why I believe that the government will listen to us, because of some of the intelligent things that we are talking to the government. They will know that if care is not taken, they are sending a wrong signal. Because this thing happened during the e-levy, and we came back to revise it. So if you flip-flop, you go back and come back, then people will not even respect the governance that we are holding. And that's why when people talk, we also have to pull back and listen to them. And I believe government, because the government have been talking with us, to tell the truth, they have been very open to us many times. And that's why I'm very positive that government is going to engage us. Because we have to help government to prefer very workable solutions, better than what they have presented.
Well, let's see how this goes, because the bills have already been passed into law. And of course, you know how it's going to affect businesses. They say that when it becomes hotter, they will lay off workers. Will government listen to these demands? I mean, we'll be talking about this in the coming days. And I want to say thank you to you, Dr. Joseph Obeng. He's with GUTA. Mr. Bedu Abuaji is with the Chamber of Commerce, and Mr. Sam Agri is with the Food and Beverages Association. I'm grateful for your time. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Enjoy the rest of our programs.